If you've seen some of my other videos, you've probably heard me say that spearfishing is the most sustainable way you can possibly catch a fish. And that is true, to an extent. But when you start taking multiple flights, eating out 3 times a day during your layovers, renting big trucks to take you off-roading in the middle of the jungle for hours to get to some of the most remote villages in Indonesia, and then hiring an entire crew of local islanders to ferry you around some uninhabited islands in the middle of nowhere, you cannot, in good faith, say that you're spearfishing in the name of sustainability and conservation. Because although a fishing trip like this is technically sustainable, it's not the same as heading over to your local beach with a spear gun looking for dinner. This is different. This isn't being a hunter-gatherer. This is kind of self-indulgent. Speaking of self-indulgence, the last time I was around these parts, it was on a big, fancy liveaboard boat. Remember that giant doggy that I sniped with a headshot at the beginning of this video? Well, that was about 6 months ago on that very same trip. Catching this fish was one of the greatest moments of my entire life. It was so great that it actually kind of ruined spearfishing for me. Because ever since then, catching the smaller fish near my home in Bali just hasn't been quite as satisfying.
60 kilo. 60. Yeah, 60 kilo.
Anyways, as I said before, I'm not really a hunter-gatherer. And the primordial search for food is not the real reason I speared this fish. Proof of that statement is in the fact that I didn't even eat it. Instead, I gave it away to some local islanders, who were super friendly, and not one piece of that fish went to waste, which is great, but I didn't spear it for them. I speared it for other reasons. I did it for the adventure, for the challenge, and, dare I say, for the photo. Anyways, the reason that I'm telling you all this is because at the end of the video I made about spearing that giant dogtooth tuna, I said this. I secretly hope to come back here in the future and give the locals deja vu. Because, although this fish is pretty big, there will always be bigger ones out there somewhere. And that's the goal of today's video. To give the local islanders deja vu, but with an even bigger fish this time. Except one thing is different. Instead of fishing from a giant, fancy, multi-million-dollar ship, complete with air conditioning, hot water, private balconies, and a full-time chef, we are on what would most accurately be described as a really big canoe. After about an hour or so, it becomes apparent that the doggies aren't around right now. And so we target other fish, like this little mackerel. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but still a really nice fish. Plus, it's always good to start a trip off with fish on the boat as soon as possible. Shortly after, I see a blue trevally. Line up on it, squeeze the trigger, but my safety's on. And by the time I turn it off, I rush the shot and miss completely. You might notice these hats scattered throughout today's video. That's what you call product placement, and all of them are available at aquaticapes.com. Anyways, shortly after lunch, I see more blue trevallies. Line up on one again, squeeze the trigger again, and my f***ing safety is on again. And I miss again. Meanwhile, the guys on the boat are having much more success than I am. This other fisherman is kind enough to share some bait with the crew, who put it to good use immediately. These guys are actual hunter-gatherers, not a wannabe like me. And in the world of a true hunter-gatherer, you're happy with every single fish you catch.
Oh, nice. Grapu.
And there's no such thing as catch and release either. Many curse words and temper tantrums after missing yet another blue trevally. I dive down again, but with a different spear gun this time. I pull the fish up as fast as I possibly can so that it doesn't get tangled on the seafloor, and proceed to finish it off. Not long ago, I'd have been really happy with a big fish like this, but in this moment, I'm kind of indifferent about it. All I can think about are the big tuna that are out there, somewhere, swimming around at this very moment. Anyways, after seeing exactly 0 doggies all day, we head back to camp. Although difficult, carrying the boat up onto the beach at the end of each day is strangely enjoyable.
Apa? Tidak mau foto ni. Ini kecil. Mau foto dengan yang besar.
Luckily, the excitement of the fishermen makes up for my lackluster enthusiasm.
Bagus.
Bagus, mantap.
Ini masakan babi hutan.
Not one piece of these fish are going to waste. On the menu tonight is GT soup. And grilled Spanish mackerel, Rambo style.
Rambo. Rambo, yeah. Musuka Rambo.
Okay, so apparently these guys are fans of Rambo, even all the way out here. And so, the next day, I can't help but wonder if these modern-day hunter-gatherers are fans of Rambo. Surely, they're also fans of Rihanna, right? Yep. Anyways, today, we finally start to see some doggies. Before we get into that, I want to thank the sponsor of this video and of this trip, the Wadu Subnado underwater scooter. There's a rock all by itself in the middle of the ocean in Indonesia. It's surrounded by downcurrent, whirlpools, and a massive school of some of the largest dogtooth tuna on Earth. Like this one my buddy speared a few months ago. Anyways, right now I'm being propelled around this very rock on the Wadu Subnado underwater scooter. When I first got this scooter in the mail, I was a little skeptical that something this small would be able to deliver the power needed to propel me through the water. But as you can see, this thing is genuinely powerful. Back to that rock though. A lot of places have dogtooth tuna, but not a lot of places have big dogtooth tuna, like this 40-kilo one my buddy speared. Although this is an amazing fish, it's actually one of the smaller ones caught around this rock. And so, when Subnado messaged me and asked if I could make a video to promote their new underwater scooter, I immediately spent all the sponsorship money on yet another trip out here. These scooters can also hook up to your arms and legs and be controlled by this little ring, which frees up your hands during a dive. And their batteries are small enough to carry on an airplane with you. Additionally, the Wadu Subnado underwater scooter is compatible with a wide variety of accessories. For instance, you can strap them to your legs or arms, like this, and operate them with only one hand, allowing the diver to use the other hand for other things. Also, with a 100-watt charger, the battery can be fully charged in just over an hour. And it can be used as a power bank to charge your other devices, such as a GoPro or a cell phone. Anyways, it's hard to see in this clip because the water's a bit murky here, but right now, I'm lining up on a 50-kilo dog. You'll see the power of this fish in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at those floats sink down like lead weights. Below this giant rock is another rock, about 90 feet deep. And that's where all the doggies hang out, usually. And so I thought it'd be cool to take the scooter down there to have a closer look. When you dive with a scooter, rather than kicking normally, you preserve a lot of oxygen during your dive, which allows you to dive way deeper than you normally would. However, despite my extra long dive time, the doggies still aren't here at the moment. Nonetheless, it's still pretty cool to get to know the underwater landscape a bit better. If you're interested in purchasing one of these scooters, hit the link in the description below. Anyways, once the batteries of these things finally die, after almost an hour of swimming around with them, we replace them with our spear guns and head back down to that rock 90 feet underwater that I just mentioned. A few hours later, the conditions change and the doggies finally start to show up. This is my buddy's footage, and as he pulls the fish up from the depths to bleed it and brain it, I head down and spear one of its friends. Small is a relative term. For me, this is a pretty small tuna. But for my buddy Evan, who's never speared one before, this is the biggest doggy he's ever seen in his life. And for the fishermen back on the boat who spend all day catching tiny grouper and triggerfish no bigger than an iPhone, this is a massive catch.
Yeah.
Anyways, as nice as it is to finally spear some doggies, we don't really want these little ones. And so we agree not to spear any more juveniles, no matter how much they try and tempt us. The reason I'm not overly excited about these little fish is because I've seen some of the largest dogtooth tuna in the world be speared around this rock. And doggies don't travel around the world in the same way other tuna, like bluefin, do. They're residential, which means that this school of fish live around this rock all year long. In fact, according to fishingworld.com, dogtooth tuna aren't actually even tuna. Anyways, my point is, I have yet to see them, for now at least. The other reason I'm positive that they're here is because no one goes spearfishing here.
Yes, 200, tidak apa-apa.
This is a very hard spot to get to, and up until this trip, it was impossible to get here without an expensive liveaboard boat. I have scoured Google Earth to try to find any semblance of civilization, even remotely close to this rock, but it's empty, just raw jungle. And the jungles in Indonesia are thick. They're so thick that, according to some anthropologists, there's a chance that a previously thought extinct species of ancient 3-foot-tall humans called Homo floresiensis may still be living today in the densely thick, barely populated jungles of the island of Flores. Sort of like a tiny Neanderthal, or the opposite of Bigfoot. Anyways, in another jungle on a different island, even more remote than Flores where those tiny human subspecies may still be living, there is one lone house in the middle of nowhere.
I'll put in somewhere and then we're gonna save them and then later we get. Yeah.
That's Josephine, the owner of this house.
So you and your husband built this house?
Yes.
Just you two?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How long ago did you build it?
I think 3 years ago.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
Who did most of the work?
One tiny generator powers the entire house.
Is that video on you? It's okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Take this one first.
Okay.
And Josephine is proof that you don't need anything other than a fire and a pot to make delicious food.
It's in how they cook the rice.
It's traditional way.
Yeah.
Is it, yeah?
And yeah, they cook like that and then they transfer to another pot.
Better than a rice
and
cooker.
steam it.
And steam it on the other side.
Not only is there, obviously, no hot water from this well, but there are no showers here either. Instead, you use a ladle, like this. And honestly, as far as accommodations in remote Indonesia, this is actually really nice. Anyways, it's about a 90-minute journey from the house to the rock. A bit longer if you factor in all the bathroom breaks.
Don't forget, like and subscribe.
You see this massive school of barracuda? Well, I don't really want to shoot them because I'm afraid that they'll bite me. But if you are going to shoot one, it's best to get a headshot. Like this. And if you don't, fighting a live barracuda is usually a lot more trouble than it's worth, as you'll see in a moment. Anyways, every single day, this school of barracuda circles around the rock. And although we don't really want to shoot these fish, the fishermen absolutely want them. To be honest, they want every fish. And deep down, I really don't mind having an excuse to spear more fish than we need. You might have noticed that none of these fish are dogtooth tuna. That's because we still haven't seen any other than the school of tiny ones begging for a spear. So I decide to go a bit deeper. On this dive, I'm around 100 feet deep. And although this fish is not a monster by any means, it's still bigger than any others I've seen on this trip. Back on the surface, as I pull it up from the depths, I feel nothing. A year ago, I would have been unbelievably excited about this fish. I would have made 15 different YouTube videos about it. But today, I couldn't have been less excited. I don't know what's wrong with me. This is an amazing fish, but I can't control what I want, and I want something bigger. Meanwhile, the guys on the boat are fishing for real. They're searching for food, not a PB fish to post on Instagram. They are real hunter-gatherers, not some lame influencer trying to sell fish hats. Speaking of which,
Buy this. Buy it now.
maybe I'm being a little selfish. How has it come to this? Am I really only able to enjoy myself if I end the life of a giant fish? Whatever happened to enjoying the moment? It's supposed to be about the journey, right?
Besok lebih banyak lagi.
Lebih banyak lagi?
Iya.
Oke, oke. Apa? Apa ikan?
Semua ikan.
Semua ikan.
Semua ikan.
Maybe I should spear some more fish for these guys. They aren't even selling their catch, nor are they posting YouTube videos about them. They just want to feed their families. They smoke the fish like this to preserve the meat.
Berapa hari di sini ikan?
2 hari lagi.
2 hari.
And keep the bugs away, for the most part at least, because that's what hunter-gatherers do when there's no ice.
See the barracuda?
Yes, that's an ad.
And speaking of no ice, The fishermen don't brain their fish like I do. Instead, they leave the catch alive in a pool of water on the floor of the boat. Probably not the most pleasant experience for the fish, but it does preserve the meat. Anyways, if they could see me on this dive, they'd be so disappointed. Now, not only do I not spear one of these fish for them, but I don't see any doggies either. And so, the next time I see the school of leather jackets, I decide to pull the trigger. And you're not going to believe it, but my goddamn safety's on. And then I place a bad shot. Luckily, the fish doesn't escape, and the guys on the boat are so happy, I sort of just start harvesting even more fish for them. These leather jackets are so abundant, it's not even that impressive to spear two at the same time. Oh, and you see this big eye trevally? Normally, I'd never spear this fish, but today, I do it for the fishermen. After turning my safety off, again, obviously, why does that keep happening? It's kind of ironic that I want to pretend to be a hunter-gatherer so badly that I pay a bunch of money to actual hunter-gatherers to take me out just so I can go and catch a bunch of food for them to eat. Anyways, as my buddy dives down, I take advantage of the privacy and pull down my pants to poop. Meanwhile, 80 feet below me, the first big fish of the trip finally appears. That's a Spanish mackerel, and it's big. I dive down to place a second shot into the fish. Although his shot placement looks pretty good, it's always better to be safe than sorry. However, I don't want to spear it right through the fillet, so I take my time, get closer to the fish, and wait for the perfect opportunity for a headshot. But my mother safety is on again. What a surprise.
Nice, it's big. Strong, eh? Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's got two giant metal spears sticking out of its head, this big fish does not want us to grab it, which is a testament as to how powerful these things really are.
That's huge.
Even after a knife to the brain, it still tries to escape. Eventually though, it finally runs out of energy. It's interesting. Most people would agree that this fish is significantly tastier than dogtooth tuna. Yet, most people would also agree that they'd much rather catch a big doggy than a big mackerel. Which just goes to show that spearfishing is not only about the food.
Oh, what is that to be alive?
We're not alive. Beautiful.
Anyways, after a few photos, I've decided that I've had enough problems with my safety and proceed to pry it off with my knife. At which point I dive down, see some leather jackets, and realize that I've actually locked my safety on rather than off.
Oh, lock the safety on.
As I try to fix my mistake, I see a school of blue trevallies swimming underneath me here. A few shimmies of the knife later, I dive down, hoping against hope that my spear gun will actually fire. It does, thank God. But the current just picked up and that fish just wrapped itself around a rock on the bottom.
Oi, Lampoon, I need to float.
The current's way too strong for me to swim against it, and my reel is going to run out of line in about 10 or 15 seconds, at which point my spear gun will be ripped from my hands.
Oh, I speared a trevally that got wrapped up.
Okay, now it's time to go up current. Basically, we're going to drop in up current, and I'll try to dive down to untangle the line as we pass by the rock that it's tangled on. Although this fish has been pushed up to the surface by the current, there's still no way to get to it. Once we're in the water though, I realize that the current is just too strong. It'd be really dangerous to dive down and untangle my line in current like this. And so, I have no choice but to cut it loose. At least I still have the fish, my spear gun, and my life. And most of my reel line.
Wrap it, eh?
We're not gonna get it.
At the end of the day, we have a really nice haul of fish.
This was not staged at all. No.
But deep down, behind that smile, I'm still not satisfied. Life is pretty straightforward as a hunter-gatherer. When you're hungry, you go get a fish. When you're thirsty, you grab a coconut.
Hey, Evan.
Such a bullet.
That's how humans have existed for most of history. It's how these guys still exist, except they also have smartphones. Anyways, remember that fish that was dropped into the deck of the boat alive earlier in the day? Well, it's still alive.
Same as before.
Bumbu.
Yeah, bumbu.
Bumbu soup.
Bumbu soup.
Yeah.
Apa bumbu? Spices. Spices. Bumbu pedas?
Yeah, bumbu. No.
No, that's not spicy.
This is the last day of the trip, and we have 2 goals. First, we need to catch 1 big fish for a big fish grill celebration on the beach for the last day of the trip. And second, we need to catch as many fish as possible for the guys to take home to their families. At this point, I've kind of come to terms with the fact that we're not going to catch any big doggies.
See anything?
Yes. No doggies though.
You just saw the like rocks and jellyfish.
I saw some water.
Some water.
And so, in keeping with that theme, when my buddy sees this giant sweet lips, he goes after it. Lucky for the fish, it swims off. However, eventually, curiosity gets the better of it. Not exactly a trophy fish, but they can be tasty when you cook them properly. Anyways, remember that school of barracudas? Well, my buddy sees them again, but he doesn't take a shot. Back on the surface though, he has a change of heart because he asks a question that he already knows the answer
Do we
to.
want barracuda? Okay.
Yes, Evan. How many times do they have to say it? They want every fish. That's a double shot, but I don't know it yet.
Is it a 100-kilo doggy? What is it, barracuda?
Find out, man.
But while we're chatting, the line gets hooked up on the bottom of the ocean,
Go nice enough so you can have
Yeah, that'll be good. But as soon as I see it, I'll dive.
which is not good. When Evan finally reaches the ocean floor, our worst fears are realized. 1 barracuda's on the line in the middle of the water column, and the other has buried itself inside a cave almost 100 feet deep.
Oh, they're both still on there. But it's like f***ing reefed. Yeah, it almost looks like the barracuda has swum through a hole under the reef and then is dead on the other side with the spear like f***ing horizontally against it. And it's a 28, so it's deep. 28.
It is not easy to dive up and down to 28 meters over and over again like this. On this dive, some progress is made, but they're still stuck. Luckily though, neither fish seems to be moving anymore.
Okay. Progress.
Okay, time for dive number 4. This time, the other barracudas swim by to have a look at their unlucky schoolmates. But as Evan finally pulls the spear from the cave, the second fish is no longer there. I'd be willing to bet money that by the time he reaches the surface, those other barracudas are already chowing down on their buddy.
There are not many people who could dive up and down to 30 meters in that situation, and then holy shit.
Mate, it was that second to last one that f***ed me. I was like so far down current from it. And I was like, oh, should I turn around? Like, and I was like, f***, I'm just gonna go for it. So I just swam like an extra 20 meters into the current.
Oh, it sucks that other one was on till the end.
I know.
What a long, slow death for this poor barracuda. And on your way down to the last one, the whole school came in.
I know.
To see what was going on.
Oh, this is kind of...
After a well-earned nap, it's time for a tuna-less beach barbecue.
Bisa video.
Oke, bisa.
Bisa, oke.
Nonton sendiri. Nanti sendiri nonton.
Subscribe.
Ya.
And yeah, this is pretty much the end of the video. These guys got a ton of fish to bring back home with them, and I got 0 dogtooth tuna. This is the part of the video where I say how, in the end, I learned an important lesson. How I discovered that it's not actually about the fish, but rather, it's about the journey. It's about the people you meet and the memories you make.
How does it look?
Yeah, amazing.
Basic.
Oh gosh. This is the giant. What do you call this fish?
Sweet lips.
Sweet lips.
But I didn't learn any lessons. I came here for a tuna, and I didn't get one. And now, it's time to get drunk.
Sudah, video, sudah.
Video.
Ya, sudah.
The people and the journey and the memories are all great, but they'd have been even better with a giant tuna over that fire, rather than a giant sweet lips.
Oke, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Lagi. 1, 2, 3. Oke.